your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
And yes, welcome to the show. Thank you for hanging out with us, spending some time here, helping you win in any marketplace has always been our motto, almost 10 years now on air. And we're really excited about our 10-year anniversary cruise coming up. We just set that up. Going to be taking a nice 6-day, 7-day cruise. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to that. And a lot of good content today, too. Airbnb confirms layoffs. We're going to talk about Airbnb and also the legal side. We've got attorney Milly Athanason in studio. We're going to talk about what happens to properties during divorce and also Airbnb stories as well, different things that she's seen in that space. Hospitality can't hire fast enough following a huge loss in its workforce during the pandemic. Hospitality is bouncing back. So we are going to talk a little bit about the economy, economics there as well. Fred Muth, Tampa Screens and Aluminum, and Cindy Barca on the show today as well. She does estate sales here in Tampa Bay. So we like to feature our real estate listings. And before we do, I want to give a quick shout out to Replenish IV Solutions, longtime friends of the Consumer Quarterback Show here in Tampa Bay. Shout out to Stephen and Lisa Gunnan, owners of Replenish IV Solutions. I just visited their Gandy location in South Tampa, and I got the vitamin infusion drip directly into my bloodstream, feeling good, boosting the immunity and keeping those energy levels up, and of course fighting off any of those different ailments that may be out there. So reach out, let them know the real estate quarterback sent you. Replenish IV Solutions, longtime friends of the Consumer Quarterback Show. All right, and let's jump into a couple properties here. We got a hot listing here. This one's a very rare 10-acre parcel of land in Pinellas County that we've got listed. It's 12290 101st Street, 101st Street here in Tampa Bay. It's 5 acres buildable. Now, yeah, you do have 10 acres, but that goes out into the water, which, by the way, it's on Lake Seminole, the second largest lake in all of Tampa Bay. Stunning piece of land here on Lake Seminole. Perfect development opportunity right here in Tampa Bay. Now, we've done a feasibility report, which is awesome that the sellers have done that, because that gives us the data that we need to be able to ascertain what can we build, what are the setbacks, what is the accessibility for fire trucks, EMS, medical, etc. We've done the work here, and we've got this property ready to go. So you can put about 22 single-family homes on this land, and potentially for 43-unit townhome community as well. So got 2 side-by-side listings on 101st Street in Largo, Pinellas County. So reach out to your builder, developer friends. Tell them to call the real estate quarterback. Give us a call, 727-263-3707. Call or text 727-263-3707. And you can also hit us up on social media or email at CQB Show on Instagram, at Brandon Rhymes1. And my email is brhymes@kw.com. No spam, though. brhymes@kw.com. And let's jump right into it here. So we got Milly Athanason in the house. Attorney Milly Athanason, that is. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. It's always awesome to have you in studio. And we like to kind of share some of these local stories, some of the things happening. Last week's appearance, you were talking about the legislative session. I don't know if you might want to add a little recap on some of that. We were going to talk about what happens to properties also during this family law situation called divorce.
Yes, I was going to talk a little bit about that. People always come into the office and ask me questions such as, okay, well, I bought a house prior to the marriage, or my name alone is on the title. Do I have to give the other spouse anything from the home, or is it all mine? And, basically, I always tell people that divorce court is a court of equity. And what that means in English is that I have never, in 34 years of practice, seen a judge give one person everything and the other person nothing.
Right.
Now, obviously, there's factors that skew who's going to get a lion's share, or whether it's going to be an equal division. We start out with the premise of 50-50. That's what equitable distribution is. And I always tell people to visualize like the scales of justice.
Yeah.
And say, okay, if they're equal, that's about where we're going to start. But again, there's factors that can change it one way or the other. So some of those factors can be, okay, well, you inherited a piece of property, or you got money from a down payment or something like that from your folks. Now, typically, if you put it into a jointly owned asset, even though it was an individually owned asset. So let's say you had $20,000 in the bank before you got married, and you take the $20,000 and you both buy the house together during the marriage. That's going to be considered marital property because you went ahead and they're going to assume you gifted it,
right?
Because you put it and invested it into, you took a single or sole property and put it into joint names. So that's kind of, a standard thing. But what happens if you inherited some property?
Yep.
Either prior or during to the marriage? Does that automatically become marital? No, it does not. So the thing is that you have to keep it separate. So if it is truly separate property, you inherited it from Aunt Sue and you kept it separate, you only paid for repairs to the property and maintenance on the property from funds generated by the property. Let's say you rented it out or what have you, and you didn't use any marital efforts whatsoever to do anything to it. You totally kept it separate. You paid the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, whatever you had to pay out of the funds that you collected. There's going to be a very slim possibility that that is going to become marital property or that there's going to be a marital claim. The minute you start having, the other spouse do, let's say, repairs to it, or they helped put in a pool to the property, or they help get rental income for the property, now you're going to see that spouse, upon a dissolution, is going to make a claim for some portion of the value of that property. So, we start out with a general premise that if you keep it separate and it was premarital property, that it's going to remain as non-marital property.
Let me ask you. So on that, would it, if you're in that position, you kind of have this in your mind is hey, there's potential for dissolution of marriage at some point, and you do happen to inherit a piece of property. Is it a good idea then to maybe set up a separate escrow account, bank accounts, keep everything separate for that property?
Absolutely. It's an excellent suggestion. Yes, you should keep separate bank accounts. The same as if you inherited cash or stocks or whatever. You should keep them totally separate, not utilize those funds for any type of marital purpose, like don't pay the mortgage out of that account or what have you. Keep it completely separate.
Yeah.
The problem is, as we often see, we're human.
Yep.
People in a marriage, they commingle and intermingle things all the time.
Right.
So usually they come into the office and it's a big confusion, and we're trying to separate out things and to see what issues can be raised and how successful we may be on a particular issue.
Right.
So that is the general rule of thumb, is if you keep it separate, it will remain separate. The minute you start gifting it or commingling it, you're going to have a lot of muddied waters, and you're going to have a heck of a time explaining why it's now not marital property. Even property, so that that you purchase, let's just say husband purchased property before the marriage, they move in, they shack up, then they get married, and they live there for 20 years. Now they want to get divorced. Is wife going to have a claim on that home even though it was premarital property? Well, you bet she is.
Yep.
So you're going to see that. The question is, of course, the magic $64,000 question is, how much?
Right. What percentage and all that. Is that where you see the judges have a little bit of leeway in terms of, based on years and maybe, his job versus her job or how they...
Yes, there's, again, a court of equity. So you can make a claim, for an unequal distribution or special equity based on certain facts and circumstances that have occurred during the relationship. So that's why, when somebody comes in, I ask all of those relevant questions to see what information I can use to present to the court if it had to go that far.
Right.
So, but that's the general rule of thumb, that yes, active appreciation where a spouse helps increase the value, or even passive appreciation can sometimes be considered marital. So it's definitely a situation to consider. The other thing you can possibly do is do a prenuptial agreement or an antenuptial agreement if you're concerned about certain assets and whether they're going to remain yours upon a dissolution of marriage. The best thing to do is to consult with an attorney, obviously, and try to map out a game plan that you think is going to be the wisest for you. The problem is, when we all get married, we're all in love, everybody's perfect, nobody's sitting there necessarily thinking, okay, we're likely going to fail 10 years from now or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going in with the white picket fence mentality, and we're going to be sipping lemonade on the porch and life is going to be great. But unfortunately, that's why I have a job.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
doesn't happen. You know?
Well, over 50% has been for a while, right?
Yes, it really. And then
Divorce rate.
when you get into second and third marriages, that rate is even higher.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, because you would think, okay, well, I got married once, I made a boo boo, I'm not going to make that boo boo again.
Yeah.
We're boo boo repeaters.
Huh. You'd think it was the opposite, though, wouldn't you? I mean, hey, the second one, okay, I figured it out. The first one was a little rushed. The second one, well, hey, I guess I see how it happens. We're talking with attorney Milly Athanason here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, and I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes, real estate agent here in Tampa Bay. And Milly is an attorney that's been a longtime friend here of the program, multiple areas of business, personal injury law. We talk about family and divorce law, and then also some estate and tax planning as well. So we've done some estate conversations. We've got an interesting conversation around Airbnb. So let me go ahead and kind of lay the groundwork here. So this is an article that I came across online. Airbnb has laid off 30% of its recruiting staff amid a slowdown in hiring at the San Francisco-based company. A small percentage of Airbnb's 6,800 employees were cut, a spokesperson told Bloomberg, adding that the move is not a prelude to more widespread layoffs, but basically just talking about post-pandemic travel boom. Airbnb is one of the few big tech firms that have avoided mass cuts so far. That's according to the CFO, and the headcount has grown. Eventually, it's going on there as well, talking about the headcount growing. But yeah, Airbnb, VRBO, a lot of real estate investors really love that strategy of, especially if you can find that discounted property, something out of a divorce, a bankruptcy, et cetera, an estate sale. And you have that situation where, okay, not only am I buying this property as discount, I'm able to put some money into it, fix it up, make it modern, maybe tear down a wall, open it up. And then if you can flip that into a neighborhood or in a particular neighborhood that allows for the short-term rentals, that's where a lot of these investors are hitting home runs, Milly.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard now. Unfortunately, I get to hear the back end of these situations.
Exactly.
So you're getting the front end, I'm getting the back end. So people are coming in and saying, okay, we've got to divide this Airbnb. We're getting divorced, let's say, or somebody passed away, or what have you. The issue that I've been hearing a lot of is, number one, that they're trashing these Airbnbs because people are renting them depending on the location, for these, whether it's bachelorette parties or whatever type of parties they're having. And they're just trashing the place. They're using drugs. They're even violating some of the, let's say if it's a condominium rule that has rules.
Right.
You hear a lot of this where they're getting calls, things are getting trashed. They're having to make constant repairs on the properties. That's why there's some areas and locales where they just don't want those short-term rentals. They'll put in, there's even cities that just don't allow it, just simply because.
Well, Indian Rocks Beach just had a big meeting about it. I need to follow up and see how that went. There's a agent on our team that lives on Indian Rock Beach. I need to follow up, but yeah, sorry to interject that.
No, but it's okay. But it's happening, and it's for this very reason. And of course, the other reason municipalities do it, of course, is they want to make sure the hotels stay there, so they don't want to have these Airbnbs coming in and competing with hotels.
Yeah.
So that there's a multitude of reasons why a municipality may do it. But as far as owners are concerned, they're more, yes, it could be a great moneymaker if you're renting mostly to, let's say, business people or business travelers. It's a whole other thing when you're renting to partiers and families.
Spring breakers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be an Airbnb owner in Fort Lauderdale or Daytona Beach right now.
Right.
Or even Clearwater Beach.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the hot markets. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back more with attorney Milly Athanason here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. We're going to talk with her a little bit more about her business practices, things of that nature, as well as we did just have a legislative session, and I want to kind of recap some of the other items that she saw that came out and came down the pike there.
Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
All right, welcome back. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show. We got a hot listing in Palm Harbor as well at 3058 Mildred Drive. This is Palm Harbor, Florida, on the canal leading out to Beautiful Lake Tarpon, the largest lake in all of Tampa Bay. So this is a great opportunity to own real estate right here in Palm Harbor. This is Pinellas County. Almost 1,400 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You got a beautiful screened-in pool. You've got your own private boat dock where you can keep your boat in your backyard. So it's perfect for the fishermen or folks that just want to go out on the river or on the lake rather and enjoy that lifestyle. You know, skiing and boating out on the lake, fishing. It's got a boatyard. Backyard dock on the canal, screened-in patio with pool. You got wood accent on the wall. Beautiful property. We just did a price reduction as well. 3058 Mildred Drive, Palm Harbor, Pinellas County. One of our hot listings from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. All right, we got another one here at 4501 Garnett Drive, waterfront property in Newport Richey. Garnett Drive is direct bay access here to the Gulf of Mexico. You got a wide open, spacious floor plan, 2215 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. Private boating community as well. You got a private boat ramp, cathedral ceiling, fireplace. Got an upstairs loft, and it's a golf cart friendly community at 4501 Garnett Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. That's Pasco County. You can see all of our listings at platinummvpteam.kw.com.
And yeah, I'm racing my class to those saving our ass overseas.
All right, so we've got Milly Athanason here in studio, attorney Milly Athanason, and we were talking a little bit about the Airbnb. I think we covered most of that. One of the other stories I've got here is that we have hospitality, it says, can't hire enough. So hospitality is bouncing back. Following a huge loss in its workforce during the pandemic, hospitality is bouncing back quickly, becoming the country's most prolific employer. While tech and finance firms lay off thousands and issue hiring freezes, bars, hotels, and restaurants can't hire fast enough. Chipotle also recently announced that it was planning to hire around 15,000 extra workers, and Kroger's turning to its former staff to meet demand, and the hiring rate of the industry is also pushing employment rate down. So what are you seeing in that sector? Anything?
Well, I know personally, since, the pandemic, you go to a restaurant and you have to wait even though half the tables in the restaurant are empty.
Yeah.
And so that's been a problem ever since the pandemic. I've noticed that it is starting to get better. And, people were complaining because most people initially wanted to work from home. But I think the fear factor in people right now has significantly declined. So I think they're willing to go back out and work in jobs outside of the home.
Yeah.
And especially if they're going to get paid well and make good tips and so forth. And a lot of these places, they're even giving like signing bonuses and things like that.
You're incentivizing people to come back to work. The government gave them so much money to stay at home for so long.
Right.
And then the tenants, hey, tenant, don't worry about paying your landlord's more rent. And so you had all these different systems that were, just really false, artificially maneuvered one way or another. Right. So I think, when they talk about low unemployment rate, I think that's a misleading stat, because I know a lot of the contractors I talk to say, yeah, I would love to grow my business. I just can't find good help.
Yes. Oh, that's been
Can't find people that want to work.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people in all kinds of home repair type businesses, contractors, they're all still complaining that they can't find decent people.
Absolutely. Now, here's something else I wanted to get to. This stocks report, 2,600 officials, and these are dealing with people that are in the government. These people that are well connected. They've been in the uniparty for so long, and it's talking about their investing. So I wanted to get to this one.
Now, this all comes as a new report is shining a light on the stock investments of employees in the executive branch. Tell us about that report.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journal first discovered back in the fall that more than 2,600 officials working in the executive branch were investing in companies that were actively lobbying their respective agencies for favorable policies. Others were investing in companies directly impacted by regulations that they had a hand in crafting. Among those 2,600 were both Republican and Democrat officials in the Commerce, Labor, and Treasury departments. There were 200 EPA officials buying stocks in companies actively lobbying the EPA, including oil and gas stocks. Then there were dozens of FDA officials buying food and drug stocks. DOD officials investing in individual defense companies. There were even dozens of officials in the Department of Justice who bought or sold stocks in companies right before the DOJ brought charges against those very companies. In total, roughly 1 in 5 senior officials in the federal government were investing in companies related to their work. And that's just what we know about.
What did it say? 1 in 5 people investing. That just, to me, that is just so disgusting, and it's such a problem with our system that we've got to root this out. I mean, that's unbelievable that they can take insider knowledge. And who was it? The girl that was a chef or whatever, the lady, she was like a cooking show. I forgot her name.
Martha Stewart.
Yeah, she got sent away for, but they can do it. It's okay for
the
these
government
guys
officials to do it. Unfortunately, it's I hate to say it, but it's human behavior. It's a greed factor.
Right.
They see an opportunity, they're going to take it. That's a nonpartisan issue. I mean, that's just going to happen no matter what. They said whether it's Republican or Democrats. They have the inside knowledge. They're unfortunately going to use it. Now, for those that don't use it, that may be a candidate you want to look at a little bit better. I mean, the only power, the greatest power we have is our power to vote.
Yep.
To be able to get people like that out.
Well, how would you like to have this tip?
Last March, Nancy Pelosi and her husband bought over $3 million worth of Microsoft stock. And then 12 days later, the federal government announced a $22 billion deal with Microsoft, and their stock jumped about 11%. So there's already been a steady drumbeat on this issue. Now the question becomes whether this latest measure is able to get past the finish line.
Yeah, it's easier proposed.
So
than
what's
passed.
11% of 3 million? Pretty big number.
Right? Yeah.
So they easily made a pretty big number of dollars that most Americans would love to make.
Oh, sure. We would all love that info.
Yeah, especially the plumbers, the people that work with their hands are out there getting dirty and sweating. That blue collar class out there. The police, the EMS, fire. We don't get the breaks like that.
We don't have access to that kind of information, obviously.
Final 30 seconds. Back to you, Millie.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, I'm here if anybody needs help with either family law matters, personal injury matters, or estate planning and probate matters. And my number is 833-ASK-MILLY. That's ASKMILLY.
I love that. 833-ASK-MILLY. Attorney Milly Athanason, local offices right here in Tampa Bay. She can meet with you. And thanks a lot, Millie. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.